Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with something very interesting. This is pretty much the craziest looking version of an Indominus Rex that I have seen so far. I assume it's an Indominus Rex. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like to me, though they definitely didn't nail the head sculpt perfectly, but in general they haven't really nailed the figure perfectly. It's like a very exaggerated, sort of almost over-the-top version of an extremely colorful Indominus Rex. This was recently found on AliExpress, and they actually had taken a bunch of figures, some of which were already released in other color schemes, and just brightened them up with crazy new color schemes, and this was one of them that really drew me in, and I thought it was unique enough that I would pick it up, so I did, and I've added it to my collection, obviously, and honestly, I'm still not sure how to feel about it. I kind of like it, but it's kind of weird. So, sort of a mixed bag here. But what we are going to do is jump to a closer look, and we'll check it out from there. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there was a tag on the foot that says Earth Story. So that's apparently who makes this figure. And on the inside, you can see we've got a little image of the figure. Some information over here that I can't really read. I don't know if there's anything else in here. Just some more information, I guess, maybe about the company. I'm not too sure, but it's interesting because most times when you get these weird sort of, again, off-brand, kind of almost bootleggish type figures, they're usually made by like Oenux or somebody like that, but this one, again, is apparently made by Earth Story. But you can see when it comes to the figure itself, it sort of resembles an Indominus Rex, though I wouldn't say that they've definitely nailed the overall head sculpt of it, but it absolutely has a similar look. The skin texture is actually fairly decent on it. You know, it's not the greatest in the world, but it's definitely by no means bad. I mean, it looks fairly vibrant, and that may also be due to the colors that we have applied to this, because we've got a ton of like metallic tones of color on this figure throughout, which really helps the figure to shine, but also helps to make the detail pop. You can see as far as the coloration here in the face, we've got like some metallic blues, we've also got metallic reds, you've even got golds up here on the top of the head, and it definitely stands out, that's for sure. Really shines with the light hitting it. We have, as far as the eye goes, you can see a black, and then there's a yellow with a black slit-like pupil, so there's even some decent paintwork to that area. Almost nicely painted, a little sloppy, but not too bad. When it comes to the teeth, though, they do look a little bit messed up. You can see there's like extra material in there, unfortunately, which definitely looks awkward. Not as much over here, but it is still present, and you can see the paint on the teeth is a little thick, a little sloppy overall. There are still even more metallic tones on the inside of the mouth. It's just hard to get in there to really see it, but you can see like a metallic purple on the inside of the mouth. You also have a reddish tone for the tongue and some decent texturing on the tongue right there. You do also have an articulated jaw, which is a plus. As you begin to move back into the neck, you start to see that kind of Indominus Rex style, almost armored look pick up with like all of those ridges and stuff moving along the body. You also have quills coming off of the back of the neck. You've got the goldish tone moving back that does stripe down, and a grayish tone, like a fairly dark gray, picking up. And then you've got, again, more of the gold up here on the back of the neck with some red coming off of these crazy quills on the back of the neck. You do have like a line of ridges moving along the top of the head, and even almost like a spike in the center of the head, which looks sort of like what you see on the Indominus, but way more exaggerated. More so than looking like ridges on the back of the head of the Indominus, this has more of like a look of a spike, almost Majungasaurus-like. But as you continue to move back, you still see the quills moving along the body. The Indominus really only moving back, doesn't really have the quills extending up into the back like this. So it does look, again, a bit different, but it's very clear to me where the inspiration for this figure came from. But you continue to see all of those bumps and everything moving back along the course of the body. You also see a striping effect with the golds and grays, basically large portions of grays moving along with the gold striping through, and then the gold kind of runs down here into the side of the dinosaur and stripes down into the body a bit. You can see more of those grays moving down, as well as, again, more blues, which also have a dry brushing over it with a lighter tone. You can really see that dry brushing as you move down here into the hand, almost like a silver dry brushing that's been applied. There is some muscle definition sculpted out here in the arm. You can also see more quills coming off of the elbow, very Indominus Rex-like as well, with a reddish tone for those quills. As you lead down into the hands, we've got the same amount of digits for the hands that you would see on the Indominus. You've got the nails painted with a black right there, a nice glossy black, which is a little sloppy as far as the application goes, but not terrible. Moving up into the stomach, again, the scale detail looks okay, a little generic, I would say, but not too bad. As you continue to move along, you still see more of that gold, striping down. You've got the muscle definition here in the thigh. Again, the texturing and everything looks fairly decent as you lead along. You've got a nice big bulging calf muscle, more of that dry brushing again over the bluish tones, and as you lead down into the foot sculpt, here's one area where we kind of stray from the Indominus Rex because we've got a sickle claw for the figure, which is pretty strange, but you can see the nails are painted again with the black, which is nice. We do have dew claws, if we can get around there, we go. Dew claws, but they are unpainted, which is a bummer, but the figure as a whole isn't the greatest figure in the world, so it's not the biggest deal that they're not painted. But as you move out, you see more of that gold, more of the quills as well, moving along the back of the body. Again, here moving along the back of the tail. But they do stop as you lead out. We do still continue to have ridges following along the course of the tail, though, until you reach this point, and then we just have a nice gold. And you can see, again, a pretty strong curve for the tail. We continue to have the gold kind of striping out. It's basically all following along here, but then it breaks up into a striping as you lead out into the tail before overtaking the tip of the tail. But again, it's honestly not that bad when it comes to a detailing aspect. It doesn't perfectly portray an Indominus Rex, but to me it's fairly obvious what they were going for. And as you move over here to the other side, you can see how the skin is now stretching and everything on this side, much more so than we saw on the other side, because of course it has a nice left turn to the body. As you continue to lead back, you can see wrinkling and everything in the neck and throat leading back into the arm. You can see the arm is held a little further out on this side compared to what we saw on the other side. The muscles are there, but not nearly as defined as we saw on the other side either. Again, the quills leading off of the back of the arm. You can see how we transition from the gray, that like silverish gray, down into the blues leading out into the hand there. Again, you've got a nice shot of the stomach with the gold leading down. This leg is stepping forward compared to what we see on the opposing leg. Unfortunately, the dew claw is unpainted on that side as well, but you can again see the random sickle claw for the figure. You've got some scoots moving down the toes. As you lead back up, you can now see again how the tail kind of curves toward us. So when it comes to these crazy figures that I often find on AliExpress, that has absolutely got to be one of the most striking yet. As far as a size goes, for a length, if you go from the snout to the curve in the tail, about 7 3/4 inches or around 19.5 centimeters, approaching 20 centimeters, but not quite there. If you go for a length like from the snout to the tail, yeah, you're going to pretty much find the same thing no matter, honestly, what angle you take with this figure. The curve in the tail causes it to be a bit shorter than it honestly needs to be, or honestly than it could be, because if you extended the tail out, it would obviously be a lot longer. But as far as a height goes, I think the back is the highest point, just shy of 3.5 inches or around 9 centimeters. And another thing you may notice is that the legs are a little warped down there. Specifically, its left foot is a little warped and a little bent, but that as well is something that's pretty common when it comes to these random AliExpress figures. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our random Indominus Rex type figure from AliExpress from Earth Story. But you can see the figure's fairly small overall. I would say it's just a little bit bigger than your average Mattel Velociraptor. I don't really have too many figures that I think would compare well with this. Like when it comes to Indominus figures, it's much smaller than the majority would be. So I think I'll probably just give you guys maybe like 1 or 2 more random comparisons for this one. So there is a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus next to our Earth Story Indominus Rex, and you can see it's just a little bit bigger than your average Mattel, like Dilophosaurus, Velociraptor, something like that. Just a little bit longer. And then one more random comparison, again a final comparison, as we have the Safari LTDU Tyrannus next to this Indominus Rex as well, to show you that again it's a little bit bigger than the Safari LTDU Tyrannus as well. So this Earth Story Indominus Rex, I don't know if you would refer to this as an Indominus, even though it's very clearly modeled after it, or if they were intending on taking inspiration from the Indominus and kind of creating a different dinosaur horribly. I don't know what the goal was here with this one, but it is still a super striking looking figure. I can give them that. And honestly, the colors on this, I think, is pretty much what drew me to it, as well as the uniqueness of the figure. Because even very obviously modeling it after the Indominus Rex, it's so unique and so different. You know, the look of quills all through the course of the body is so strange but kind of fun. And of course, the metallic tones through the body, not necessarily the most realistic thing in the world, but it is one of the flashiest things I think they could have done to this figure. And there's just something about that that kind of drew me into this one. Having it here, honestly, I don't regret my purchase, even though it's a very cheap looking figure. The paint application is actually really nicely done. They applied a lot of variation of color to this one. There was no laziness when it comes to the amount of color added, and a little sloppy as far as some areas like the nails and the teeth and stuff when it comes to the paintwork, but overall I think the paint application is fairly decent. It is still a cheap looking figure, like cheap feel, you know, you've got the warped legs and stuff, and it just obviously doesn't have the type of quality you would find from a company that really cares about their product. But at the same time, it's decently detailed throughout. You know, some of the details, some of the fine details, a little generic, but it's not that bad overall. I kind of am like trying to figure out if maybe it's a bootleg of some kind, but there's nothing that's really ringing a bell for this one. Nothing that stands out as far as where I could see this one originating from. So I don't think it's a bootleg. I think maybe it's just a figure that they've sculpted out themselves and just very heavily inspired it from the Indominus Rex. But again, it's definitely a unique one for sure. If you are interested in grabbing it and adding it to your collection, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on AliExpress. So make sure you check that link, grab this if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.